Coming up on the Sports Desk, the El Camino Warriors said they'd set some defensive records in 2014. In the midst of an undefeated conference run, we ask, is it possible they're too good to set those records? We have the answer today. Meanwhile, the North Saxons chase after a title of their own, but the Torrance Tartars see if they can spoil the party, standing between the Saxons and first place South. And we scour the internet for Halloween weekend's strangest, even creepiest high school football videos from every corner of the country. Scores, highlights, and updates from Torrance's prep sports scene. The Sports Desk starts right now. How's it going, Torrance? Welcome to a new week on the Sports Desk. I'm your host, Wan Hernandez. At the open of this season, Elko women's volleyball coach LaValle Pattison put a declaration out there for everybody to see. In her opening address, printed in the team season program, she said, "This team will break some defensive records." It was a mark of confidence in the strength of her squad, which they've kind of backed up. The El Camino Warriors made everything look easy in the month of October. 9 South Coast Conference matches, 9 wins, 9 consecutive sweeps.
Our bench is really loud and really energetic and really fun, and I think we're pretty fun to watch.
We're doing a pretty good job limiting unforced errors. We don't just give away points. Usually we take care of the ball on our side of the court and make the other teams earn their points.
The Warriors say they didn't expect to have a run like this coming into the season. Even for a program that's won 25 conference titles, remaining perfect for an entire month and possibly more is unheard of. Suddenly, Coach LaValle Pattison's declaration that this team would set defensive records against the South Coast Conference isn't a possible goal, because the Warriors are just playing too well.
Well, the problem is we're playing only 3 games. So we're not going 5 with anybody. So we're digging a lot of balls, but they're not having long matches.
Pattison says with players averaging between 5 and 7 digs a game, the Warriors would be on pace for some great overall stats. But they're winning each game by just over a 10-point margin, meaning not only are the Warriors consistently winning, they're flat out routing everyone that steps onto the court with them.
Is it hard to stay focused when you're blowing everybody out like this?
Yeah, it is, but I mean, yeah, it is.
It is, honestly?
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do to stay focused?
Just play your game. But there's always like room for improvement.
Also, what?
We need to play more together as a team and have more energy when new people come on.
In the midst of an unprecedented run in the regular season, the Warriors will likely be a heavy favorite to make a push for the state title. So, the only question left is an obvious one. Is there pressure to live up to that standard set by a dominant, near-perfect regular season?
I don't think so, because I feel like we've worked so hard at practice and we've worked so hard during our games and made less errors and less errors every time we played. So I think that if we lose, it's not going to be the end of the world. But I mean, we'll be disappointed, but it's not going to be a waste.
The Warriors go one lap through the South Coast Conference in the month of October, wire to wire with that undefeated record in conference play. Even though they aren't getting enough time on the court to set those defensive records, their coach anticipated as a team, they might be on track for at least one record. With all these zeros against conference opponents, the Warriors allowed an average of just 14.8 points a game. Just 3 teams managed to score more than 20 in that stretch. Against LA Trade Tech, the Beavers took the Warriors to a 26-24 first set, nearly pulling off the early upset, but that's the closest anyone's come to taking a game in October. The Warriors enter November with just 5 more conference matchups. Regional playoffs will begin for Elko Thanksgiving week on November 25th. Meanwhile, in the prep volleyball world, the North High girls have had a stranglehold on the Pioneer League for years. In most years like this one, their only competition for the league title is the South Spartans. But at Torrance High, with a new coach and a refreshed program, the Tartars look to change that. Colin Kushner has the story.
North High School volleyball has been rolling through league and non-league play so far this season, and Coach Soon and the rest of the Saxons have really come a long way since last year.
I am very proud. They've come a long way, and we're excited to move forward with the end of league and for playoffs.
We've come a long way. Like, we struggled during the summer, losing a lot of seniors and a lot of talent, so I think we've gotten a lot better.
Against one particular Pioneer League foe, North, to put it plain and simple, has just been dominant. The Saxons have had the Tartars' number in years past, with their last loss against Torrance dating all the way back to the 2008 season.
We just have always had great players, and we try to build on that every single year. And I think good coaching mixed with good players is always a good thing.
I think just like building that team chemistry during the season, and like usually Torrance was good my freshman year, so I think just not underestimating them, but just delivering.
North looks poised at making another deep playoff run after being ousted by Los Osos in the CIF quarterfinals last season. They plan on keeping up their energy and playing their best volleyball as the season comes to a close.
Game plan is just to really work on our energy and then also play our best volleyball.
Reporting for the Sports Desk, I'm Colin Kushner.
Next up for North, the Redondo Classic provided a matchup with the South Spartans. The Saxons win the best of 3 tilt 2-1. It won't count in their Pioneer League title chase, but it will provide some confidence heading into their season rubber match on senior night. The Spartans and the Saxons get after it this week at North High to wrap up the 10th consecutive year of North and South volleyball owning the Pioneer League title. A North win forces a split of the league title. A South win makes the Spartans your outright league champs for 2014. All right, everybody, coming up, the Pioneer League has more than one race on the football field. All 4 Torrance schools in position for the playoffs, but only 3 will guarantee their postseason tickets.
You always made sure I brushed my teeth.
You told me that smart was cool.
You always told me to dream big.
To all of those parents who took the time to make raising their children their most important job, we'd like to say,
thank you.
Thank you.
From the bottom of my heart, thanks, Mom and Dad.
This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 58 years old.
8 years into the disease was when all the light went out.
For me, it was heart-wrenching.
Looking into the eyes of somebody with Alzheimer's, sometimes you just don't see the person's soul is like gone.
And it takes a toll on everyone. I mean, it's a depressing disease to watch unfold before your eyes.
She actually thought those of us who were caring for her and who loved her most were her worst enemies.
More and more responsibilities fell on my shoulders.
This disease just ravages a family.
It changes your life.
The magnitude of it is indescribable. My mother taught me to be in the moment.
We have to live in the moment with them.
And I'm going to be with that person right now in this moment, wherever she is.
Now is the moment. If we work together, we can stop this epidemic.
Contact Bright Focus and learn more.
Welcome back. The count is officially on. Greg Holt's strategy for getting his squad mentally prepared to win each week is pretty simple. When West made it over their toughest hurdle of the season against North, a 49-35 win to bring the Warriors to 7-0, he sat the team down near the sideline with the perfect regular season in sight and told them, we're 0-0. No wins, no losses. Every week is a clean slate, adding up to 8 wins and no losses coming into their matchup with the South Spartans. West has their hands full in the first half, heading into the locker room down 12-0. Greg Holt may or may not have reminded his team they were quickly in danger of falling to 0-1 for the first time all year. The Warriors come out in the second half and pitch a shutout on defense. They score 31 unanswered points to put themselves 1 win away from an undefeated season. Brett OG scores 3 touchdowns after sitting out the first half, and Trevor Mallett connects with Dale Rouse for a TD pass. It takes just 2 possessions after the half for the Warriors to take a lead they'd never give up. So that leaves Torrance as the last thing standing between West and a perfect run through the Pioneer League. They've moved to the LA Times Top 25 Prep Football rankings, and they have a stranglehold on the Daily Breeze's second spot in their top 10. As for the Tartars, they stay in a position to get a share of the Pioneer League title by beating Centennial. They pitch a 23-0 shutout to move to 3-1 in league If the Tartars can pull off the upset against West, they will have a share of the league title at 4-1. Another if in that scenario, the North Saxons have had probably the strangest and most stressful season in 2014. After a benches clearing run-in and double forfeit with Inglewood, sitting out a week due to CIF punishments, starting Pioneer League without 9 players, then jumping into back-to-back weeks against West and Torrance, it's been quite a wild ride at North High. After the dust settles, the Saxons finally get their most, quote, normal week in over a month. They end the first half with losing or tied at 14, then they outscore the Olympians 21-6 the rest of the way. Mike Juarez threw a TD pass in the final minute of the game to put it out of reach and pad the Saxons' lead to 15, holding their spot at second place in the standings, just 1 game behind West High. Heading into the final week of Pioneer League games now, there are now 3 teams left with a chance at the league title. West is in the driver's seat. A win over Torrance secures the outright title, while a Torrance upset coupled with North beating South on senior night would set up a 3-way tie for first in league. Now at Bishop Montgomery, the Knights are also in control of their own league championship destiny. A week ago, they completed the bounce back of the 1-3 start by reaching a 500 record for the first time this year. The next assignment would be to reach a winning record. Carter London makes sure that happens in a blowout win over St. Bernard. He pounds out 174 yards on 26 touches. He and Chris Hughes both contribute 2 touchdowns for the Surging Knights, who've won 2 in a row heading into their season-ending matchup with Cantwell Sacred Heart. The winner of that game is going to be your South Catholic League champion. Now, one team that hasn't been able to get on a roll and complete a 2014 comeback is the El Camino Warriors. After getting their first home win of the season against Harbor, they can't keep the momentum and they drop a conference game against Chaffee College. Elko heads into the fourth quarter down by 26 points. They rally with 15 fourth quarter points to make it a close one, including a touchdown from Wan Hernandez to Nick Roos and a 2-point conversion to make it an 11-point game. The ensuing onside kick is unsuccessful though, allowing the Panthers to run out the clock and close it out. Elko sends 3 different QBs onto the field throughout this one. Joey Notch, Ebon Jackson, and Wan Hernandez combined for 226 passing yards. The Warriors fall to 3-5 overall with the loss. They're 2 games below 500 overall and in NCC play, so they'll be in do-or-die mode closing out the season with their final home game against Mount Sac on deck here. All right, coming up, more updates from around town. Meanwhile, outside of Torrance, things were true to Halloween weekend form. Some funny, some strange, some flat-out creepy events on gridirons across the country.
My new mom and I have a lot in common. The great outside. We both love the outdoors. So shiny. That's not a flower. We both love geology. Oh, look. An igneous one. That's not a rock. And she knows a lot about wildlife. A labradoodle. That's not a dog. Hanging out has been kind of fun.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Hi, welcome back. Jumping back into some updates from around Torrance, we take a look at some sports that are wrapping up league and individual titles. Bishop Montgomery's Nena Nadosi took the Delray League's individual title on the tennis court by beating her teammate Samantha Nishimura. Meanwhile, Lauren White and Carla Moss gave Bishop the Delray League doubles title. From the fairway, the Torrance ladies continue their run through CIF Southern Section team qualifiers. Nina Navia's 70 on the par 74 Los Serranos golf course in Chino Hills led the Tartars to a third-place finish. West High finished 32 strokes behind Torrance to take 6th place, so they will not advance to the Southern Section qualifier this year. El Camino Warrior and former West Warrior Teddy Casa took the men's cross-country title in the South Coast Conference. Casa won the 4-mile race to lock up the title with a time of 20 minutes, 32 seconds, pretty fast. He finished more than 8 seconds ahead of the second-place finisher to become Elko's first individual cross-country champion since David Cardona took back-to-back crowns in 2009 and 2010. The South Coast Conference crown tops off a first-team SCC season for Casa, while the Warrior team placed second overall behind Mount Sac with 32 points. The women's soccer team collected their third win of the season with a 1-0 victory over Pasadena City College. The Warriors are out of the playoff race with just their second conference win, but it's still a significant one because that tops Elko's season win total for 2013. They have 4 games in the first half of November to try and build on that mark now. Meanwhile, the men played a couple rounds of leapfrog in the SCC standings last week. They endure a third straight draw with a 1-1 wash against East LA, only getting the 1 point early in the week, put them 1 point in the standings behind Mount Sac. Then, to close out the week, Elko breaks the streak of 3 consecutive draws with a 4-1 win over Pasadena City College. Andy Nunez had a big day against the Lancers with 2 first-half goals, putting Elko back in first place over Mount Sac because the Mounties finished out their week with a draw of their own. One last story now before we close things out. All week long, coaches across town talked about how the excitement of Halloween falling on a Friday evening made their entire weeks weird. Felt like an extra homecoming week had been added to the schedule, with students generally being excited and distracted by the big night ahead. The evening went off in Torrance without a hitch, but with a little bit of internet browsing throughout the Halloween weekend, we found that wasn't always the case on gridirons throughout the country. Check it out.
Halloween is a time for costumes, gags, and a good scare or two. This year, with the holiday falling on a Friday, our nation's weekly prep football Sabbath, the gridirons seemed as good a place for a haunting as any other. Take Spanish Fork, Utah, for example, a playoff game between Spanish Fork and Maple Mountain. With the Dons leading 14-11 with under 4 seconds left, all Jason Money needed to do was take a knee to run out the clock. Then, something from somewhere possessed him to do this.
And the clock has expired. Money will just throw. Looks like he just trying to think here. And Maple Mountain recovers. And did they score? Touchdown, Maple Mountain!
It's already being called the Maple Mountain Miracle because the announcers had just said that's what it would take for the Eagles to extend their season. But ask the New York Mets and the Boston Red Sox. Or the Chicago Cubs. One team's miracle can easily be another's curse. And that might explain how something as simple as a pregame entrance became a disaster for one prep athlete. An easy task. Everybody runs onto the field with cheerleaders standing by to fanfare and grandeur, unless you're this guy. With his Halloween plans trampled on before kickoff, the only possible explanation? Maybe it was a visit from the gridiron ghost of Silmar, making a sneaky appearance before running back home to patrol the sidelines of his alma mater. Yes, the spookiest of all this Halloween's gridiron shenanigans. Perhaps an old defensive back running onto the field. Certainly has the speed for the position, but the elusiveness of a running back. After all, like Barry Sanders, you can barely see him. This Halloween under the lights brought us a miracle, or a curse, in Utah. A phantom chop block, and perhaps a little too close to home, a varsity ghost patrolling the sidelines.
Told you it was creepy. Before we say farewell for the day, time to pass on how you can get in touch with the Sports Desk anytime. We're always just an email away when you have a great story idea, you want to invite us out to a game, or you just feel like saying hi. You can also catch our Facebook page for random updates and photos from games all over Torrance. All right, everybody, that wraps up another week on the Sports Desk. We will see you next time. Have a good one.